Acharyas. Tadistasishmad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantharaj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki, Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Shri Pancha Tattva Ki, Shri Nrsingadev Bhagavan Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Gaur Premanande, all glories to their Samo devotees, all glories to their Samo devotees, all glories to their Samo devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So as okay, yes. So today, devotees, we're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, Vidura approaches Maitreya, and we are reading verse 21. Soham tad darshanalada vyogarti yuta prabho gamishye dayatam Tasya Badardyashrama Mandalam Soham Tadarshana Ladha Vyogarti Yuta Prabho Gamishye Daitam Tasya Badardyashrama Mandalam Soham Tadarshana Ladha Vyogarti Yuta Prabho Gamishye Daitam Tasya Badardyashrama Mandalam Soham Tadarshana Ladha Vyogarti Yuta Prabho Gamishye Daitam Tasya Badardyashrama Mandalam. Saham, thus myself, tat, his, darshana, audience, ahlada, pleasure, viyoga, without that, artiyuta, afflicted by distress, Prabho, my dear sir, Gamishye, shall go, Dayatam, so instructed, Tasya, his, Badardyashrama, Badrik Ashram in the Himalayas. Mandalam, association. Translation. My dear Vidura, now I am mad for want of the pleasure of seeing him. And just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badrik Ashram in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him. And the purport by Srila Prabhupada. A pure devotee of the Lord, of the standard of Uddhava, constantly associates with the Lord in the double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting. The pure devotee is not for a moment unengaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. Execution of the Lord's service is the main occupation of the pure devotee. Uddhava's separation from the Lord was unbearable, and therefore he started to Badrik Ashram in obedience to the Lord's order, because the order of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. As long as one is engaged in the execution of the order of the Lord, there is no factual separation from him. So hamta darshana lada vyogarti yuta prabho gamishye dayatam tasya badaryashrama mandalam. My dear Vidura, now I am mad for want of the pleasure of seeing him. And just to mitigate this, I am now proceeding to Badrik Ashram in the Himalayas for association, as I have been instructed by him. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachadi Jatarane Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha paditanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So devotees, here Uddhava is speaking. He has been addressing Vidura for a couple of few chapters already in this third canto, explaining his last experiences with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right at the end of the Lord's pastimes. I assume you've all been following the classes, so you would know that he was there just after that great battle at Prabhasa Kshetra. He met the Lord, who was sitting under a tree, and the Lord instructed him in many ways. He recited many pastimes from Vrindavan, Dwaraka, and he instructed him, as he mentions here to Vidura, he instructed him go to Badrik Ashram in the Himalayas. Those of you who have been there would know it's quite a way. It's quite a way. It's not a small thing to go to Badrik Ashram, and there's sometimes life-threatening situations on some of the corners of the roads. So it's really from, well, this was going on back not so far from Dwaraka, if you know where Dwaraka is, Gujarat, near the coast, and then Badrik Ashram. It's a good few, like 2,000 or so kilometers from that part of the world down near the coast. So the Lord, well, initially Uddhava was advised, don't go with everyone to Prabhas Kshetra, because, something drastic, it seems, it will happen, and it happened. There was a great battle, more or less on the scale of the Battle of Kurukshetra, at least in terms of numbers of people and the destruction and devastation. Prabhupada talks of 580 million people there who were killed in that battle at Prabhas. But Uddhava was nearby, but he wasn't actually involved because, anyway, he was nearby. One might have expected him to be involved because he was so close to Krishna. He was Krishna's advisor, you could say. Very, very close for many years. But somehow he avoided that, and then he met the Lord just not far from there. After that it all happened, and the Lord instructed him to go to Badrik Ashram, as he says here, as Uddhava says here, for association. For association. Because when particularly great elevated devotees, extremely elevated devotees like Uddhava, when they feel separation, it's a very amazing, very dramatic and devastating type of experience for them, and even physically painful. Yes, so therefore Uddhava says, now I am mad for want of seeing him. I want to see him. I need to see him. Not being able to see him, I'm just, well, he's going into a completely altered state of consciousness, not material state of consciousness. Srila Jiva Goswami, in his commentary on this verse, 3.4.21, he refers to the Bhagavatam 3.2.6, which is also Uddhava speaking. It's the same conversation, and it explains there how Uddhava, he was having just come from the Lord, having just left the Lord, and he's on his way to Badrik Ashram, but he's completely absorbed in remembering the Lord and this experience he's just had with him, being instructed by the Lord. He's in another world. He's in another world. So that verse 3.2.6 says that then he came back. He came back to this sort of world, at least say the material type of plane, because he met Vidura. And now he's got to instruct Vidura. So really, these very, very great devotees, when they're separated from the Lord, then sometimes they literally go into another world, which means the spiritual world. And they're there with him, and they just lose awareness of this external material world, and sometimes enter states of transcendental madness, and their physical effects, like Lord Caitanya in separation, sometimes his body would elongate, some of the joints of his limbs would separate, and his arms would become longer, his legs would become longer, or enter into his body. That's Lord Caitanya, of course, but certainly some things like this happen with these great devotees like Uddhava. There's a description in Bhakti Ratnakara, which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta sort of gave his stamp of approval to. There's a purport in which he discusses the authenticity and value of Bhakti Ratnakara. He describes one happening with Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, that Srila Rupa Goswami would, when he had written something new in Vrindavan, he was staying in Vrindavan mainly at that point in time, then he would oftentimes send it out or take it out to Radha Kund, where Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was living, and leave it with him to read and make some comments like that, maybe even make some suggestions what to do. But this would happen. So one time Srila Rupa Goswami left Lalita Madhava with Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, and if you're familiar with Lalita Madhava, it's a big book. It's a drama in 10 acts, and it's, a good few hundred pages long. So, and it's, at least particularly in the beginning, it's very dramatic because it describes the departure of Lord Krishna from this material world. Sri Nrsingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Yeah, the disappearance of Lord Krishna and the effects it had on the Brijbasis. Many of them, in different ways, gave up their lives or even committed suicide. So, what a description in detail. And there's Raghunath Das Goswami reading it, and it became, he entered into a state, you could say, of transcendental madness. And sometimes he would put the book down and go away, trying to sort of escape from the drama that was being described at that point in Lalita Madhava. But then he'd always come back and read more, because even though it's kind of shocking, but still it's transcendental and ultimately transcendentally ecstatic. But after some time of this, he became so overwhelmed that the devotees there, his associates in Radha Kund, felt that his body is not going to be able to take any more of this. His body is just going to expire. So they spoke to him, please stop reading this book. Please stop. But Raghunath Das Goswami said, I cannot. I've been ordered by Srila Rupa Goswami, who is my guru or one of my gurus. I cannot. And he would continue even though he'd become, just overwhelmed is a word we can use, but in the extreme. So what the devotees did, because they were worried that he was going to leave his body, so what they did, they sent a message to Srila Rupa Goswami. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Astasaki Vrinda Ki Jai. So they sent a messenger. Those days, of course, there was no WhatsApp, Telegram, not even telephones, can you believe it? So they sent a messenger, ran all the way to Vrindavan, and told Srila Rupa Goswami, this is what's happening, and another day, another few days, we may just lose Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. So you got to do something, please. So Srila Rupa Goswami wrote another book on the spot, a much shorter one. It's also a drama, but in one act, Dan Keli Komudi, and whereas particularly the first chapters or first few couple of acts or so of Lalita Madhava, it's Krishna leaving Vrindavan and these devotees, gopis and even Radharani passing away. So this Dan Keli Komedi, it's like a jolly drama. It's tax collecting pastimes on Govardhan Hill, and Madhu Mangal is at his flamboyant best, negotiating with the gopis and getting on their cases. Anyway, I won't go into the details, but it's really nice. It's just really nice. I mean, it's all really nice, but it's like transcendental fun, you could say. So Rupa Goswami personally came out and brought this book to Raghunath Das Goswami, who's kind of incapacitated by now, more or less. And he said, you know what? I want to take back that Lalita Madhava because there's a few things I want to have a closer look at and, maybe adjust. But here, can you please take this book and have a look through and read it and comment and so on like that? And so Rupa Goswami was a little hesitant, they say, initially, but it's the order of his guru, one of his gurus, Srila Rupa. So they exchange books. And then he read that. It doesn't take so long to read it, just, 2 or 3 hours. And then he was happy again. And life was good, you could say, in those types of terms, in physical terms. So, but here, Uddhava, he's expressed it in different ways, in different of the verses, like even the verse immediately before, verse 20, what does he say? I have come to this place. He's now somewhere meeting Vidura. I've come to this place very much aggrieved due to separation. That was the previous verse, read, I guess, 2 days ago. And here now, he's mad for the want of the pleasure of seeing the Lord. Yes. So it's all, this is very high level, super high level transcendence. And it's very extreme. In the word for word, the word artiyuta is translated as afflicted by distress. And afflicted, I looked it up in a dictionary, means grievously affected or troubled. Grievously, it's intense. It is extremely intense. But then he says something which some might find a little difficult to understand, that I'm mad for want of the pleasure. We shouldn't take it to mean, and I'm sure we don't, that, just some, like, being at the beach, enjoying life type of pleasure, but transcendental, ecstatic association with the Lord in service to Him. And it's the word in the verse is ahlada. And ahlada, I checked around in Prabhupada's books, and it's used more to indicate or to mean transcendental joy, transcendental ecstasy. So that's what he's talking about. He's mad for the experience of being with the Lord again. And how's he going to get that experience? He's going to go to Badrik Ashram. And what's he going to do there? He's going to associate with the devotees. And because the Lord is present in the association of the devotees, he's been just for a short period of time from leaving the Lord to meeting Vidura. He's been on his own. Therefore, he's feeling separation very intensely. But now he's with Vidura and feeling better to some degree. And he's going to go to Badrik Ashram, because there, at least in those days when I've been there, other than our group, there haven't really been so many devotees, but it is a very sacred pilgrimage place where devotees go. So this is all about, Prabhupada mentions in the first sentence of the purport, the double perception of simultaneous separation and meeting, particularly in the case of great devotees, very advanced, even more advanced devotees. Of course, the fact is that we are all in separation from Krishna, and particularly just the people in general, they're really in separation from Krishna, and we're also in separation, but, well, I don't think any of us are feeling like Uddhava, just overwhelmed to the point of not being able to handle it through being separated from the Lord. And so he needs the association of devotees, because then he'll feel the presence of the Lord again. So anyway, we're in separation, but when we chant very nicely, when we chant our japa very nicely, if we get up early in the morning, attend the morning program, chant our japa, stay for class, and things like this, then at the end, if we've really been attentive and careful to the different activities there, particularly the chanting, then we feel better, isn't it? It is. We definitely feel better. We may not, anyway, I can speak for myself, We may not feel like so totally overwhelmed, like about to enter another world, but we definitely feel better than when we first got up in the morning before we had a bath. So we met the Lord a bit, being in the association of the Lord through chanting and generally being with other devotees. So that's nice. That's nice for us. But for someone like Vidura, it's much more, the difference is much more extreme. So just like with Raghunath Das, he almost left his body, but then he became satisfied a little later. So mad for want of seeing the Lord, being with the Lord. In descriptions of, like their descriptions in Nectar of Devotion and in other literatures, there we see that in separation from the Lord, sometimes great devotees become so literally mad, like if we read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10th canto, after Krishna's left Vrindavan, then he sends Uddhava to Vrindavan with different messages for the Brijbasis, for different of the Brijbasis. So Uddhava is there at Nandagram with Srimati Radharani and the gopis, and there's very vivid description there in the 10th canto of how Srimati Radharani, having received a message, and this having very powerful effect on her, message from Lord Krishna, she just quite openly goes into a state of transcendental madness and starts talking to a bee, a bumblebee. First of all, speaking because she's kind of transcendentally upset with Krishna because Krishna left Vrindavan. So she's criticizing the bee and criticizing Krishna to the bee. And she says, you know, you're just like your master. He wears yellow dhoti and then he's black on top. So you also, you have these bands of yellow and black. So you're just like your master, Krishna. And it's not good. And, you know, your master, Krishna, he would go from one girl to another and enjoy himself with the first one. And when he'd sort of taken as much enjoyment from her as he could, he'd go to the next one and do the same thing. So you're the same, because you go from one flower to another, and you take all the nectar which is there inside, and you just take it all, and then you leave the flower. You don't stick with the flower. You go to the next flower and you do the same thing, and on you go, flower to flower. So you, as Srimati Radharani said, you are the unreliable servant of an unreliable master. It's transcendental madness, because he's a bee. He's a bumblebee. I'm sure we've all met many bees, but you know, we never thought of interacting with a bee like that, but she did, and she got so much into it. But then the bee sort of buzzed away around the corner, just out of the way, and Srimati Radharani thought, oh, he's gone back to Krishna. Oh no, he's going to report me to Krishna. All these criticisms I've made. Oh no, what's going to happen? How to save the situation. But then just very shortly after, it sounds like less than 1 minute, but just very shortly after, the bee comes buzzing back. And now Radharani is mad in a different way. Now she's just glorifying the bee. You are so wonderful, just like your wonderful master, Krishna. Oh, I'm so happy to see you. And just like your master Krishna would say so many beautiful words, and we just become enraptured hearing him. You buzz so nicely. So when I hear your buzzing, I think, it's just like Krishna speaking. So this is, again, it's transcendental madness. And when Uddhava saw that and heard all that, he'd never seen or heard anything like that before. And it really captured his attention. So, and he couldn't get it out of his mind. He had experienced many things coming to Vrindavan, coming to Nandagram, meeting Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, and so on and so forth. And now the gopis, he'd experienced so many things, but this, he couldn't get out of his mind. So Bhagavatam also, just maybe same chapter or just around there at least, Bhagavatam explains how Uddhava then, after a while, he left Vrindavan and he went back to Mathura. And we understand that as he's just passing Govardhan Hill, like the one end, the sort of kind of northern end of Govardhan Hill, then he comes to one place where there's grass and herbs and little bushy type of plants. And he's just thinking and thinking about this experience with Srimati Radharani. And he speaks a couple of very beautiful verses, and he thinks that, I need to get some mercy from these people, the Brijbasis and particularly the gopis. So he sees all these little bushes and shrubs and things, and he thinks to himself, next life I want to take birth here as some sort of shrub or clump of grass, something of that sort, so that when the gopis, because he knows the gopis come to Govardhan Hill regularly, they go all over the place. So when the gopis come down to Govardhan Hill, maybe they'll step on me. Or if they don't actually step on me, maybe they'll just sort of pass nearby and kick up some dust, and some of the dust will fall on my head if I'm like a clump of grass or a little bush, something of that sort. So we understand he prayed like that, and there's a place, Uddhava Kund, where they say, of course they say many things, but they say that Uddhava, his desire was fulfilled. He took birth as a clump of grass. Or even some of them say all the grass and little shrubs and things around that they're all forms of Uddhava. So he was so deeply struck. He was so deeply struck by this transcendental madness of Srimati Radharani, which indicated her extreme, or just was an exhibition of her extreme affection for Lord Krishna, which he had never witnessed before, but he was hankering to achieve. So we find in different places there are descriptions of happenings like this with different devotees, different people. They really sort of go into another world or actually enter another world. In Raghunath Das Goswami has written a book, Dan Keli, not Komudi, that's Rupa Goswami, but Dan Keli Chintamani. And again it's, Dan Keli, it's the tax collecting pastimes. And the gopis are coming to cross Govardhan Hill. Krishna's there with Madhu Mangal and cowherd boys, and they want to stop the gopis and charge a tax. But then Krishna sees Srimati Radharani, and he becomes overwhelmed and he becomes a little mad. And Krishna says, "What is this? Is it a fresh monsoon cloud?" Oh no, sorry, that's Radharani talking about Krishna. So Krishna says, "What is this? Is this a blossoming champak vine?" No, it couldn't do, because vines are stationary. This thing is moving. Is it a lightning flash? It's Radharani. Is it a lightning flash? No, can't be that, because lightning flashes are just there for a second or something and then they're gone. And this thing is here, like permanently. Is this a wave with or is this a river with very beautiful special waves? No, can't, because rivers are formless, and this, whatever it is, it has a form. And then he decides it could only be Srimati Radharani. But he was really thinking like that. And she also, is this a fresh monsoon cloud? Is it a sapphire blossom, a newly sprouted blue lotus flower? And so on and so forth. No, it's none of these. This must be the wonderful dark moon of Gokula standing before us. So, of course, this is for the bridge buses. It's not for us. I mean, Hare Krishna. We are not on that level. Don't mind me saying it, but I can say for myself I'm nowhere near that level, and I suspect many of us also. But the thing is that the main point is, here we have Vidura really struggling. He's mad for want of the experience of being with the Lord. And the Lord has told him, effectively, you'll get it. Just go there. Just go there to Badrik Ashram and associate with the devotees. So for us, this is extremely, totally relevant. We need the association of the devotees. And amongst the devotees, we particularly need the association of Srila Prabhupada, which is available in his books particularly, but also his lectures and conversations, etc. We need that association. And just like this, going to those devotees in Badrik Ashram who are really elevated devotees, extremely elevated, for like really profound Krishna Katha, it's in a sense going to save the life of Uddhava, because he's sort of on the edge of something a bit too dramatic. Yeah. So if we really associate with Srila Prabhupada, study Srila Prabhupada's books, then, well, it will save our lives in Krishna consciousness. It will continue to save our lives on an ongoing basis. You know, I've been teaching Bhakti Vaibhava, and I've just finished the 5th canto, so I went through from the beginning, like really in detail, although I've read the Bhagavatam a number of times, but now going through in detail every single verse and purport in detail, what an experience. It's amazing. Even though I've read it a number of times, but it's like I never read it before, and so many, the realizations that Prabhupada expresses, it's incredible, literally incredible. So of course we must chant our rounds and so on and associate with the devotees, but we must read Prabhupada's books, because that will give us the actual association of Prabhupada. There's one place, I forget exactly where, it's either third or fourth canto. Narada Muni's been instructing someone very transcendentally, and Srila Prabhupada says in one purport, "We would like to thank Narada Muni for appearing in the pages of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam." And you might think, well, that's Prabhupada just being sort of saying an interesting thing. But Prabhupada's there with Narada Muni. Yeah. And he actually feels like that. He's had contact with Narada Muni. And it's been so, not just satisfying, but illuminating and elevating. What a wonderful experience. So like this, some say in sort of distinguishing between the phenomenon of meeting or being with Krishna particularly, and being separated from him, some say that a difference in principle is that when you're meeting, when you're with Krishna, you can see him, you can embrace him, and that sort of thing. You can hold him so tight. I remember once, before there was a bridge over the railway at Chatikar, there used to be the railway crossing. So I remember being there, we're on our way to Govardhan or somewhere, and I got out of the car, I'm standing next to the railway line, looking to see, where's the train? And suddenly 2 arms came out from behind me and came around me and got hold of me and squeezed me so tight I couldn't breathe. It was really strongly for a while, and then put me down. It was Bibi Govinda Maharaj. He's a strong man. So, but anyway, you can be with Krishna like that. He may embrace you, and sometimes, like Lord Nityananda with Madhavendra Puri, they embraced for hours, 3 hours or something like that. That's a really serious embrace. So that may happen with Krishna, with you. It may well. So that's really close association. But when you're in separation, then, of course, you're not seeing Krishna. We're talking about very elevated devotees here. But remembering Krishna, just like Uddhava, well, not just like Uddhava, but remembering Krishna, remembering very deeply his qualities, his pastimes, what he has said, his instructions, and so on like that. Now the Lord is not just close to you like he's embracing you, he's actually inside you. He's inside you. He's in your heart. He's just within your being. And some say this may be a type of difference in the experience, difference between embracing and actually having the person enter within you and your heart. So anyway, devotees, we are on our own levels. We must carry on and really do our best. But along with chanting nicely, we must read Prabhupada's books very carefully. Study them, learn them. And this will enrich our lives just ultimately, unlimitedly. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'm sorry, I understand at least, we don't have time. Do we have time? Who's in charge here? Madhava. Well, just one, yeah? Dhruva instructed me, one question. Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj, for this wonderful enlightening class. Hari Om. Just one comment and a question. I was also heard that why Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan, because the Yadavas in Dwarka might be thinking that they are the best devotee. But Krishna sending Uddhava to Vrindavan is to teach them also there is higher rasa.
Yes, right.
So the question is, Maharaj, the way that the love and separation is explained, especially Vidabdhamana by Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, she's telling to Lalita how she feels this separation from Krishna. It's like being pierced by the boat, or the stress of someone being poisoned, or someone being dying out of cholera. So this is the love and separation, but why it is explained in a negative way, like suffering.
Why? Well, I mean, one possible, just a thought is, suffering often sort of moves us more than enjoyment. You know, if we really suffer, if you have an operation, I had an operation about almost 2 years ago. Wow! What suffering! 24/7 for weeks. Anyway, it's intense. It's very intense, and these things, you know, cholera, if you've ever seen someone suffering from cholera, what? It's just incredible, actually. They can die within a few hours, and devastating. I know Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in talking about the 5 special devotional activities, Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan Maturavas Srimurtiya Shraddhaya Sevan, talking about worshipping the deity, he also speaks apparently negatively. He says he's glorifying it, but he's speaking in negative terms. There's, my dear foolish friend, if you don't want to lose your family and your friends and your, you know, all that sort of thing, if you don't want to lose them, then whatever you do, don't go and see Govinda down at Keshigat. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you'll lose all these things which, because he's saying you're a foolish fellow, which you think are very wonderful. It's an interesting approach, yeah. So you better be careful, devotees. Don't look at Radha Madhava. Don't look. Well, I think it's too late for you. You've had it. Anyway, it's just some thoughts on the subject. And Prabhuji, you wanted to say something?
I wanted to ask your thoughts on whether when the gopis are talking to animals or, inanimate or Krishna's flute
Right.
and making prayers, could it, when we say they're in madness, she's talking to a bumblebee, but it's not just there's some bumblebee in the material world, there's a bumblebee in Vrindavan, and it's Radharani's own ecstatic feeling. So could it possibly be that the bumblebee is really a messenger of Krishna, or?
It could be. This is discussed actually in Nectar of Devotion, and I just didn't have time to go through it in preparation today. But examples are given of devotees, sometimes devotees speaking to a tree or something along those lines, but it's just a tree. It's just a tree. But then there are other cases where it's not just a tree or just whatever, but it's actually a transcendental devotee in the pastimes of the Lord. So it depends, but to really sort of get into it a bit more, one would have to look there in Nectar of Devotion, because it is discussed at some length, how sometimes it's just, it's just becoming overwhelmed, but the sort of the life which you're attributing to whatever it is, or the consciousness is not there, but it's just your state of mind. But in other cases, well, Krishna, there's just before the killing of Dhenukasura, Krishna and Balarama walking down with the cowherd boys just along Govardhan Hill, and there are some trees that which are the limbs of which are full of fruits, and they're coming down and touching the ground. And Krishna says to Balaram, look, see, these trees are offering obeisances to you. And the thing is, they are. And there's some bees buzzing around Lord Balaram. And Krishna says, and these bees, they're just like great sages chanting your glories. And is explained, they are actually great sages. Yeah, so depends on the circumstances. But sometimes it really is, whoever or whatever. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.